Hey, Abe, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, of course, of course. I've been a big fan of your work for a while. I was looking back and I remember watching you in Century City a while
Oh
ago.
my
Do you remember that show?
God. I do. In fact, I just had a lunch with Kristen Lehman, who was on that show with me, and she's terrific. So it was great to sort of to reconnect with her. But that's man, that's taking me back.
Well, it's around when I was first really getting into TV, and that was
Yeah.
obviously that show did not last very long, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
No, we only did the 9 episodes, but yeah, and it was I guess set in 2030. So we weren't quite spot on in our predictions of what the future would look like as lawyers, but it's interesting.
no, absolutely, absolutely. And then I watched you in Lost, but we'll get back to that later. Let's talk
Okay.
about the morning show. The
Sure.
morning show first. So, how did you originally hear about this role? Did you audition? Did you get approached about it?
Well, I had the privilege of working with Carrie Aaron on Bates Motel. Carrie ran that show, and she created it with Carlton Cuse, and she was the head writer, and she's terrific. And then when I heard, she let me know that she got this this job to write the morning show. She asked if there's if there's anything I'd want to do on the show, and I said, oh, are you kidding me? I've always wanted to play a weatherman, so I always thought there'd be so much fun in that kind of a role, and I knew there'd be a lot of comedy in it. So I jumped at the chance, and yeah, and thankfully it worked out. But yeah, I was thrilled when she told me that when she called and said she wanted me to be a part of it. So yeah, that's how it started.
That's great. Did the role involve as much weather manning as you would have expected, or that wasn't really the focus in the end?
You know, there was a bit of it, and we talked about this in terms of developing the character, because she wanted to develop this guy who was sort of a poet, who thought of himself as a poet, who was truly passionate about the climate, about weather in general, and but he was completely underappreciated, for his craft and his knowledge, and sort of so someone who's really who has this romantic sort of passion, but also has this darkness underneath all of that. So that was just, compelling for me as as an actor to dive into, and then add to that, he's embroiled in a relationship with a young woman at work, and with the Me Too revelations of the Mitch Kessler character, now he's sort of finding himself, in hot water, at least, certainly in his mind, he's in hot water. And so I loved all of that complication and all the nuances, and all the gray areas, which is what the show does so well, and Carrie does so well, is sort of tackling all the gray areas of all of these very sort of topical issues.
And I do think that the word underappreciated is one that could describe almost every character in a different way. I feel like everybody feels like they're not seen. Even Alex, feel that
Completely.
there's a way that they're not seen that they want to. And so I think that's a nice, in such a huge ensemble with so much talent in it, I think everybody sort of has that underappreciation as a connective thread.
And I think that's something that it's such a human thing that everybody can sort of relate to on some level. There's always sort of that human condition of like, I work so hard. I do all this, and no one appreciates me. Oh my God, even as a parent, you always feel like, you're not getting thanked daily, for being a parent. Moms and dads can appreciate this. You give and give and give. And of course, it is appreciated, but there's no immediate validation, day to day. So it's a quality I think a lot of people can identify with. And yeah, each character, like you said on the show, has that in spades.
And you also mentioned the Me Too scandal that involves Steve Carell's character, but then there's for Yanko, there's something else which isn't anywhere near on the same proportions, but he I think he sort of not feels cheated, but he feels like he's being unfairly portrayed for something he didn't do because of what other people could do.
There's no question. Absolutely. He feels that, look, I've done this, I felt like I've done it the right way. My character feels this way, that I've gone about this with the best of intentions. He's analyzing it to see where he might have taken advantage of a situation. He's sort of racking his brain, but he feels no, at every turn. I feel like I've done, my character feels like he's done the right thing. And yet you're right. He's sort of grilled by HR. and then cleared, of any wrongdoing. But it comes at the expense of his relationship. It comes at a cost. So Claire has second thoughts after going through all of it, and after their relationship was exposed in such a way. It's no longer the romantic affair that in her mind that we were having.
Right. And then, of course, he gets himself into trouble with something else that he feels very passionate about and wants to be seen.
Oh, you mean in terms of the second season with?
Yes.
Yeah, in the second season, I love what Carrie and the writers did there, and sort of highlighting, sort of the insidious nature of where cancel culture has gone to the point where people are being attacked, for saying something seemingly innocuous, but not merely attack, and because that's fair game. Criticism is fair game, but is leading a campaign to destroy someone, and then asking them, to apologize to no end, and so I love what the writers have done there, and sort of taking on another hot button issue, and exposing, all of the dangers, there's amazing things, obviously, that we've all benefited from, and being empowered as an individual, online, phenomenal things, and it's brought out some incredible things. But I love that, that the show has highlighted the dangers of that power as well, and how somebody can, willingly launch a campaign to destroy someone, for sport, essentially.
Yeah. Did you look to any examples of, real life cancellations or just anything like this that sort of blew up to inform your performance?
I mean, there's just been so much of it, there wasn't any one incident where I said, oh, okay, that individual, but I love that one of the things I loved about the way that Carrie handled the issue was that he knew in his heart that he didn't say or mean anything that would offend, certainly racist or derogatory. That was never the intention. Whether it offended somebody is another situation altogether. And certainly he acquiesced to giving an apology, even though he didn't know what he was apologizing for, because he truly didn't feel that was offensive. But then, people's barometer for being offended is different, and what might offend one person, certainly another person would think nothing of it. But then the apologies didn't end, or the apology wasn't quite enough, because he used the word, it might offend some people. He qualified the apology to a point where it wasn't it wasn't as clear as say the network wanted it to be, or the individual who felt offended wanted it to be. But then I think what's really fascinating is that Yanko comes out in the heated conversation with his boss, with Stella. He points out that the one individual who was offended wasn't even Native American, which is highlighting the absurdity of this whole notion of cancel culture, and how pernicious it is, and how insidious it can be. That it really is. We're not standing up for, necessarily as a society, and not in all cases, in some cases, for what's actually true and what's actually moral, and we're giving in to sort of extortionist tactics, and we see this, in all facets of our society, even in corporations, are giving in to demands that they should, in my mind, or certainly Yanko's mind, they shouldn't give into.
Right. Well, so I don't know what you're allowed to say about season 3, but what's next for Yanko? Are you coming back? Anything you can share?
I can say that much. I am looking forward to coming back. I can only imagine. I have met with Cheryl Stout, who's our new showrunner, new writer, who's terrific, and I can only say that it will certainly be topical. I'm sorry to have to be so evasive, but that's just the way it goes. But I am looking forward to coming back. I'm really excited about it, and and see what hot button issues the show tackles this year.
That's fair. That's great. And I love your scenes with Belle Powley. I think she's fantastic.
She is fantastic. Thank you.
Something I always like to ask, which is so much more appropriate for this show than the other, is it's such a huge cast. Who would you love? What characters would you love to have Yanko interact with that just it hasn't happened because it's not a part of the story.
Oh yeah, you're right. It is an enormous cast. It's a phenomenal cast. I mean, God, there's so many. I would love to interact with Corey, to some degree. With with my God, with Alex, certainly, with Bradley, God, I mean, there's just so many with Mark Duplass's character, a Chip. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now.
It's all good.
Yeah, I'd love for him to sort of have, when I spoke with, had a great meeting with Charlotte. It's all about conflict, and it's all about finding conflict with these characters, and whether it's an ideology or it's in some deeds, some action. And I think I would have a lot of fun having conflict with any and all of them. So I would look forward to that.
I like that. And well, speaking of conflict, that's not a great segue, but Lost, I mentioned before, is something
that conflict there. Yes.
That's right. That's the whole segue. So I spent a lot of, I was in college when Lost was on. I used to watch regularly with people in a way that I don't think people do in the same room anymore, but I think that was just, to me, that's such an iconic role. You sort of, it's interesting because you came in midway through. You're not somebody who was there from the beginning. And just, do you have positive associations with that? And do you find people are constantly recognizing you or associating you with the role of Richard?
Oh, that was a gift. That was another gift, as has been the morning show. I came in on that show, and it was the 7th episode of season 3. So you're right, midway through the run of the show, really to do a guest spot, in Juliet's backstory. Never in my mind did I ever think, and it's always an actor's dream. Oh yeah, I hope they'll bring me back. That I'd come back. I think it was like 5 weeks after that, because I was part of her flashback. I was like, well, okay, that's done. Only to be on the island in present time. And no, I had no clue the phenomenal roller coaster I was about to hop on. And no, that was like one of the most amazing gifts of my career and my life, because it really changed our family as well. We moved to Hawaii. Certainly the last season we moved there, but I was traveling back and forth so much that at what point it made sense just for all of us to move. Our kids went to school there for a year. So it was life altering for us in so many ways. I have the most amazing memories of that show. And I love it. I love it when people come up and want to ask me about the show and about the ending. I get a lot of questions about the ending.
I was curious because I know that a lot of people, like, who even were especially the diehard fans, some people were not happy with how it ended. And so I don't know if people are ever angry and somehow blame you as if you had some role in that.
I mean, no, they don't. They don't blame me, and I think enough time has passed that those yes, you're certainly not going to please everybody. Doing a finale that'll please everyone is next to impossible. I think there was just, I think if you were along for an emotional ride, the central emotional ride, I think those people were, for the most part, satisfied with the ending. I think if you're along with the ride, but also with more sort of on the thriller, the mystery element of it, where some questions were left unanswered, I think those people was certainly felt shortchanged. And I understand that. It depends what kind of ride you were on for the show. But I think there was some confusion as to what that final scene was, and I think that added to, I think, a lot of the polarization of the finale too.
I think there's definitely plenty of confusion with that show. I think it's mainly confusion, I like to think, but there's also some good stuff in there.
Well, Abe, let me ask you, if you have time, what do you think the ending was, or what did it represent for you?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about it in a while. I actually think I watched the finale twice. I watched it at first and I was not too impressed. And then I watched it again. And I was like, no, actually, this is exactly what it could have been. Because I'm, I think, a rare person where I liked season 5 best. This is not morning show related at all. I love time travel. And so sure. I'm thrilled, like all the time travel, really, that's what won me over. And I think a lot of people just didn't get into that. So for me, having that was good. I don't know that I quite understood how the worlds, the flash sideways and all that, how that was supposed to connect. But again, I remember watching the second time and feeling as satisfied as I could have, I guess.
As you could have been. Well, if you have 30 seconds, I can give you sort of a paraphrase of what, from Carlton.
Oh, please.
So the as you pointed out, the last season flash sideways as opposed to flash forward, flashbacks, and the other seasons. that those flash sideways represented it was Desmond essentially recruiting everybody to go to this church, right? You know, it was all, we have to go to this church, and you didn't know what it was until Jack died. So you know, and when Jack dies on the island, you know, he dies on the island. He goes and he winds up in this church, in the back of the church, where he sees his father. And I'm paraphrasing now, but he asks his dad, you know, what do we do? What am I doing here? What is this place? And he essentially says something like, you know, this is a place that knows no time. And then he looks in the church and sees all of those people in the pews, and he says, well, what are they doing here? And he says they've all come here to see you to higher ground, something to that effect. And basically what I think the writers are saying is that, you know, we all travel in soul groups, and these are people who were intimately tied to Jack, for better or worse, you know, in his life, and they all died at different times, so that everything on the island truly happened, and people lived through that whole thing. They didn't die in the plane crash; they truly lived, but they all died at different times, you know, in life. But even though we see them physically as we remember them, they would have died at different times. But they come to this sort of purgatory of sorts to send him off to higher ground, and that was essentially what that church was.
Oh, that's very helpful. I'm glad. I mean, again, there's so much TV now. There's so much I've watched since then. It's nice to like, and now I'm like, well, now I should just stop watching everything that's on, you know, and just go back and go through this. But
you have to go back.
There you go. That's perfect. Well,
anyway,
before I let you go, are there any other projects that you have coming up that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I had a great time participating on Shogun for FX. That it was a remake of well, you know, it's sort of it's a remake of the mini series in the 80s. Beautifully done by it's Disney for FX. Shooting in Canada, had a blast doing that, and then I've been directing quite a bit, so I've enjoyed. I've been working on New Amsterdam. I'm looking forward to going back and doing a third episode for them, and just loving it. And writing as well. I wrote something for Fox that we're waiting to hear on now. But so yeah, trying to stay busy. But really looking forward to going back to the morning show. You know, starting season 3.
Me too. Well, it's so great to be able to talk to you. Century City, Lost, morning show, everything, and looking forward to Shogun and what comes next for you.
Thank you, Abe. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
So much.
Take care.